Eloise drops the book down and looks at her grandchildren, Lily and Rose. She tells them a secret. That's not how she remembers the story going. Lily says that mermaids aren't even real, causing Eloise to tell her granddaughters that she once knew a girl who met a real-life mermaid. She tells them of Elle, who believed in magical and wondrous things such as mermaids. Elle plays with her friends, laughing and having fun, while her Uncle Cam writes to her doctor. Now, Elle recently lost her parents and she's been having a rough time, but she believes that she's secretly a mermaid. She has a hard time breathing and believes that her mermaid powers interfere with her being a human. Coping mechanism or reality? The jury's still out. And while typing away, Elle has a breathing episode causing her friends to call out and eventually seek out Cam to get her help. He runs out and grabs her, taking her inside. He tells her she can't push herself as hard as the others. He gives her medication and hugs her, promising that he'll find a cure for her sickness. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to get good luck for the whole day. She watches as her friends play outside, sad that she can't be a normal kid. So at work, Cam gets assigned a story regarding some mystery potion that is sold at a circus, which is said to be a miracle cure. Now the story means that we'll have to travel to Mississippi to track down this cure-all, which uses mermaid water and is said to cure anyone of anything. At first, he argues that the story is just like any other story they've chased before, but his boss counters his argument, telling him that hundreds are testifying that it works. He's told to pack up and leave for Mississippi immediately. Cam and Elle pack their bags and head to Mississippi. Along the way, Elle's excitement grows while Cam hopes that the story's real, but his skepticism gets the better of him. When they arrive in Mississippi, they stay at a charming home owned by Lorene. She welcomes them to town and helps them inside before showing them around her quaint home. Now in town, they meet Peggy Jean, who's overly sweet and talkative. She tells them that she's taken the miracle cure and that she'd be happy to discuss it further with them. Even better, she'll bring a bunch of others who've taken the cure. So that night, they attend the circus where the healing water comes from. They wander through the crowds and stumble upon a fortune teller, Thora. They walk in and sit, and Elle asks her to read her fortune. She's told that she's special, with the spirit of the ocean within her. She then gives Elle a gift before turning to Cam. She knows he doesn't believe it, so she tells him to give it a chance. He reluctantly agrees. She grabs his hand and immediately tells him to be wary of the one seeking to take his greatest treasure. Startled, she lets go of his hand and tells him to go and watch the show. After they leave, she continues to think about what she just saw while holding his hand. Meanwhile, inside the circus tent, people gather around as the ringleader brings out a box and introduces the Little Mermaid of the Mississippi. Elle is enchanted by the beguiling woman who swims around the small glass box. She places her hand on the box and the mermaid does the same, before the ringleader covers her up. Elle looks at Cam and says that the mermaid is real, but he says that she's just an illusion, which angers the ringleader. They walk around a bit, and after getting cotton candy for Elle, Cam sees a sign for where the potion's sold, and it's sold out, but he knocks on the trailer and tries his luck anyway. He's turned away, but tries again, asking when it'll be available again, but is told nothing helpful. Elle then asks to go on the Ferris wheel, and while she rides it, Cam notices a bunch of guys eyeing out a woman walking near the big top. The girl's eventually helped by the ringleader and his lackey. Cam's curious as to what's going on at this circus, thinking it's becoming bigger than just some magic water. So later on, while Cam is giving Elle her medicine, Elle speaks of the mermaid they saw earlier and asks to see it again the following day. He argues that it was just an illusion and nothing more, but she tells him that she'll believe what she wants and he can believe whatever he wants. And while she thinks of her parents and wishes they could have seen the mermaid, Lorene walks in. Elle then asks her how the mermaid can live out of the sea, to which Lorene replies that mermaids can live in both the river and sea. She says nothing's impossible, especially in Mississippi, where magic exists everywhere. So on the following day, Cam interviews some people in a church about the magic water. It's clear that this water is more likely than not a hoax. Peggy says she's not crazy anymore, but then dances like she is. An old man says he wasn't able to hear before, but now he can hear the questions. A kid who said he had migraines before now only has headaches. And a man who was nearly bald before taking the potion is now still nearly bald. Not a great sales pitch. Cam decides to go and see the magician. But the meeting didn't go well. Mr. Locke doesn't reveal much about the healing water, telling him that a magician doesn't reveal his secrets. After saying it's not magic, Locke, now offended, is even colder, especially when asked about the mermaid. He tells Cam to leave. So while walking by the river, they come across the mermaid. Elle runs to her and asks her how she has legs. Elizabeth tells her that mermaids get legs every low tide. She tells Elle a fairy tale of a girl born on land, blessed with the heart of a mermaid. They talk for a bit before Locke holds a pendant, which calls the mermaid back to him. She runs off and returns to Locke's lackey, Sid, who's whipping one of the performers. She tells him to whip her instead, but then Locke stops him. So Cam comes back to the circus and looks around, trying to find answers. He then stumbles upon an elephant. While stroking the elephant, he hears Locke talking in another room. He sneaks around, getting closer to hear what he's saying. His homie leaves him alone, and Cam watches as the magician plays a few notes on the piano and opens up a secret compartment. No villain's complete without a secret compartment. He sees the pendant in his hands, but is interrupted by someone singing. Cam watches as the mermaid sings, and eventually walks in and talks to her. She warns him that he shouldn't be there, because he knows everything. He asks what she means, but before getting an answer, the magician and his lackey walk in. Cam covers his tracks and says he has more questions, but Locke says that he must leave because they're closed. Well, he leaves, but is warned to watch himself, and on his way out, Thora tells him to stay away from there, making Cam wonder what is going on in this place. So on that night, Lorene takes Cam and Elle on a steamboat. They board it, and Elle immediately goes to look for mermaids while Cam does his work. Elizabeth then shows up, and Cam goes searching for her before returning to the office. There he finds her sitting and reading, and she asks what he's doing, and he tells her that he's writing a story. She says she loves stories, and then he tells her reading his notebook isn't a good idea, and she asks if it's because he doesn't believe in mermaids. Well, he tells her that he's surprised on how she's even on the boat, considering he'd think a mermaid was tired of water. At least a real mermaid, that is. The two then have a whole conversation about water. Then Cam brings down the mood by talking about the accident that killed Elle's parents. Cam asks if the healing water's real, and she tells him that there is magic in the water, but not Locke's. Elle runs towards them and tells Cam that the dance is starting, before looking over and seeing Elizabeth. Elle invites her to join him, and the two dance together. As Peggy's walking through the crowd, she's struggling to walk properly, up until the point where Cam has to catch her from falling. She tells them that the magic is fading, and after Peggy leaves, Elle drags Cam to dance with Elizabeth. He's not great at the whole dancing thing, but thankfully Elizabeth drags him off to go look at the moon instead. And after a while, Cam notices Elizabeth looking at him and asks why she's looking at him so intensely. She tells him they should be able to open up their eyes and see things, and that nobody can take that away from them. Cam asks if she's referring to Locke before apologizing, and she says he doesn't have to apologize all the time, to which he says sorry again. That's a winner. Anywho, they slowly lean in, and they're about to kiss. But the boat goes and interrupts it. Cam says that the wheels are stuck, meaning they'll have to wait for high tide. Elizabeth suddenly runs off and Cam chases her, but can't seem to find her. So shortly after, he sees a light in the water and decides to swim after it. How long this man can hold his breath is impressive. What's even more impressive is how he gets out of the water without needing to catch his breath. Now, that's a man. Elizabeth comes up out of the water and sees Cam, who somehow managed to beat the mermaid who went in before him. Okay, so Elizabeth looks at him and thinks that he's probably afraid, but this man's just amazed. He tells her that he just wants to understand her better. So she explains everything to him, even the part on how she made a deal with Locke, saying now that Locke has a piece of her, she has to follow him wherever he goes. She tells him that she's been taken from town to town selling the bogus elixir, before warning him not to get involved, but Cam argues and says that it's too late for that. Even after being told that she's bonded to him, he asks why she doesn't just leave. If only it were that easy, she thought. She says as long as he has a part of her, there's no escape. Shortly after, Locke starts summoning her, which forces her to leave. Cam returns home to a panicked Lorene and finds Elle missing. He asks where she is and then finds a feather and realizes that she's been taken. He then hurriedly runs to the circus. So Elle asks Elizabeth why Locke trapped her in a cage, or if she did anything wrong. But she shakes her head no and says she didn't do anything wrong. Then Elle proceeds to tell her how Locke said to her that she's unique and has the heart of a mermaid. And while Elizabeth agrees, she warns her not to trust him. The lackey comes in and takes Elle away, Locke confronts Elizabeth, and she tells him to let Elle go because he already has her. He doesn't need Elle. She's shocked to learn that he plans on killing her. So Locke asks Elle if she really wants to be like Elizabeth, to which she agrees. He tells her that he can make anything she wants happen, but for a price. And for a brief moment, she considers it before claiming he won't trick her. Cam arrives at the circus and looks for Elle before being helped by Thora. She takes him to Elle, who's chained up. She tells him the guard has the keys, and he immediately goes and finds the guard sleeping and grabs the keys. And as he frees her, Elle says that they have to save Elizabeth, but Thora warns that they have to get her soul too in order to save her. Because without her soul, she dies. She tells him that she doesn't know where the soul is, but he realizes it might be what he saw in the piano. They go to the magician's quarters and fiddle with the piano before playing the keys and opening the secret compartment. He then takes her soul before a guy runs in and tells them that it's time. And now Thora slows down time and eventually stops it all together. They run out and see everyone incredibly still. Thora helps Elizabeth and gives her legs. She's apparently incredibly powerful. They don't have a lot of time, so she jumps out of the tank, and just before they go, Cam releases the elephant. They ran outside and needed to get Elizabeth to water, so Lorraine suggested to run towards the train, which runs beside the ocean. They head in that direction and time begins to start again. They jump on, and Elle has a breathing attack. Cam quickly gives her medicine before giving Elizabeth back her soul. Time unfreezes, and Locke starts to introduce the Little Mermaid, only for the curtain to be pulled off showing an empty tank. He runs to the piano and finds that her soul is gone, and he tells his lackey to go and find her. So on the train, they all sit and wait to reach their destination, and then out of nowhere, Sid enters the room. They fight the goons off, and then the magician stops the train dead in its tracks. Thora says that they need to go, so they jump off the train and run into the woods where they find a truck. Now, there aren't any keys, but never fear because the all-powerful Thora is also able to hotwire the car using her powers. She jumps in to drive while Cam, Elle, and Elizabeth get in the back seat, and Locke's annoyed to find nobody on the train. Elle has another breathing fit, and Cam doesn't have her medicine and tells them that they need to stop the car. He demands that she comes home with him to get the medicine, but she rejects the notion, wanting to stay with Elizabeth. He reluctantly agrees and they press ahead. The werewolf-looking dude stays behind to fight the wizard off. Sid and the werewolf have a really anticlimactic fight. Elizabeth starts changing back into her mermaid form. The car stops, gets stuck in some dirt, forcing Cam to carry her the rest of the way. So as they get out of the car, Locke shows up. Thora stays to fight him off while the others carry on. He approaches her and tells her how disappointed he is with her, but she says that she won't be cruel like him. Locke takes her in a powerful grip after she attempts to kill him. As the werewolf almost gets him, he disappears. So Cam and Elle finally make it to the water, but find Locke there already. He puts her down and tells her that she's free. He disagrees. After promising her that he won't let Locke take her, he's shoved to the side with the tiniest bit of magic. Thora comes, and Elizabeth offers her soul to help fend him off. Thora initially disagrees but eventually takes it into her hands and fights back against his magic with her now enhanced powers. For a moment it works, and then not so much. Cam runs up and tries to get him, but he's roughed up again. That can't bring humanity to a magic fight. Then Elle places her hand on Thora and Elizabeth's, causing her power to grow. Locke is blasted with magic and left powerless. Cam runs up to him because the third time's the charm and boots him off the mountain. Elizabeth suddenly feels weak, so Cam carries her to the water, and as the sun rises, they gently place her into the water. Elle places her soul on her chest, and it goes back into her body as she wakes up. And as Elizabeth swims in the ocean, Elle has a breathing episode again. So Elizabeth takes Elle into the water, heals her, and then returns her back to Cam in good health. Elle then hugs Elizabeth, and she tells Cam that anytime Elle can't breathe, he should take her to the water. She then says her goodbye, but not before they finally kiss. Cam writes his story about a little mermaid in Mississippi. He asks Lorraine if she thinks anyone would believe it, and she says as long as he does, that's all that matters. So Elle comes in and asks Cam to go and play with her, and he stands up and goes outside. Eloise tells her granddaughters that Elizabeth gave Cam the greatest gift of all, love. Lily asks what happened to Elle. Eloise starts coughing, and when Lily asks if she's okay, she tells her that it's just time to swim. She gets up to leave, and Lily and Rose soon follow and see their grandmother turn into a mermaid. The Little Mermaid was released in 2018 by AMC. It starred William Moseley, Poppy Drayton, and Loretto Peralta. So, what are your thoughts on mermaids? You think they're real? Tell me with the hashtag #CinemaRecap in the comments.